Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to do the third part of the series, and this is the video history of Nasara evidences. And this one's going to be about Obama to Hillary and then on to Trump's executive orders. Now, the first two you really got to go back and watch. The first one was what Bill Clinton signed into, not as an executive order, but right through Congress, Senate, and signed into law. Then we talked a little bit about Bush and what he did, how the DoD lost $2.3 trillion, and they keep losing it. By the way, they keep losing money, and we never really spend any time talking about that one, right? And then into the 9/11 fraud that kind of comes in. And by the way, it's so funny that YouTube doesn't even want to wants to limit my ads with that one because I'm so dangerous by talking about that. And then the next video, we talk a little bit about what Bush did with his basically illegal wars into Afghanistan and Iraq, and the later portion of that is to deal with the 2008 and 2009 fraud of how they stole $87 trillion, but they cloaked it in the banks having to be seized and become national banks, which they really still are. Now, so this one here, we're going to deal with the Obama evidences with that too. So we have this issue in the background and the backdrop of the conversation. The overall idea was this. This is what they wanted to accomplish. So the cabal wanted to have Barack be in there from 2008. I'm sorry, it's not perfect picture with that too. And let me pull off something here. Barack being in charge from '08 to 2016. So this is their plan. So he wanted to fund the terrorism. That's the MS-13. That's what Trump keeps talking about, right? Take out the good guys. I know there's a lot of people talking about, General Flynn both ways, but Trump keeps trying to give him a job, so therefore I'm going to, go with him. Barack actually gave billions of dollars to Iran and North Korea and funded them through their nuke program. It was the very first time that we ever saw this. We saw it a little bit with Clinton, but we started to see 1,000-page bills over and over again that no one in Congress knew anything about, which says, why would you ever pass a bill that has 1,000 pages that you cannot read? Which makes you complicit on anything that is ever done. They cut military funding, they weaken, conservative bases, they staged, the Supreme Court. And then Hillary's job from that point on, once that thing was set up in place, her job was to start World War III. Revise the Constitution. Now, it was already revised, but they wanted to put it out in front of your face with that too. Close the other military bases globally so that we had no presence anywhere else. And then take away all the firearms, just like the other nations have done, open the borders fully. They sort of did that with the Biden kind of conversation, right? Kill off the economy. And this is the rise of the New World Order. This is how they would want to do it. Now, I know a lot of people who think about, biblical prophecy, and they were like, well, that was, the mark of the beast, right? Or the New World Order, which was the Antichrist. And I'm like, they say, well, Joe Biden did that. And I'm like, you don't understand biblical prophecy if you think that actually occurred. It's funny that we talk about this because these are 8-year cycles. Bible talks about it in 7-year cycles. And these people have to come out of obscurity. Now, Barack would have come out of obscurity, but he's already gone. He cannot be the Antichrist, nor could Hillary, even though she's types of ones. And here's the funny thing: the Bible even predicts that too. There will rise in the end times in Matthew 24 people who are there will be a multiplicity of false prophets and false antichrists. Okay, and that's what these types of people are. Okay, so Trump is, let's go forward, or let's go backward a little bit in our time frame, but forward in this particular circumstance, and show you an interesting clip that Trump was talking about.
Fact check him in real time.
Fact check. I mean, she's like fact check, and she is rattled by Trump. Understand that point. I'm going to back this up. I want you to understand how rattled she is by him. He is super not rattled by her. Okay.
And fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
See, look at that kind of statement.
We want to remind the audience to please not talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
See, and here's the CNN idiot hosts who are so upset with the audience loving what Trump said in a snap of a finger. And most people don't realize how easy he can do that because he's so far in his IQ. No, listen, Hillary's no slouch at that moment. Hillary is a very smart person, and yet he's running circles around her in every way, shape, and form because she's still accomplishing the roles of her superiors. The scary part for these people is that Trump comes out of nowhere and has an agenda that is disruptive to them. And that's what messes them up. That's why you have to have moron over here who speaks them down. Listen to that again.
Talk out loud. Please do not applaud. You're just wasting time.
What's the problem with wasting a little time there, right? Now, I'm going to show you a video that has been shown many, many times. We'll play it a couple times. So Hillary is here. We know this is for sure Hillary. She's loaded into a van. Okay, this is backed up a couple times. It's really fascinating. There's no sound, by the way, guys. I want you to catch a couple things. These definitely are some level of Secret Service. Someone's covering over her. Someone's got her arms and moving her forward. She doesn't want to move forward. Now, some people would say, oh, she's incapacitated. If she's incapacitated, why are we putting her in the middle of a nondescript black van? I mean, wouldn't she be, riding in a beast, that Trump talks about? I mean, they love to talk about that beast. But why is it in this kind of thing? Then you see other officers come in, right? Secret Service. This is a planned event over and over again. And what most of us have believed at this time frame, this is a 9/11/2016. Before the election, she was arrested. I know that's a little startling for many people, but this, when you really look at this, she has her arms behind her back in a very strange posture with this kind of thing. And you might not believe me here, but here's what we have. Not even 2 months later, we have the election, and I cut down some of the information in here so you can kind of see, without going.
Clinton having a 71% chance of winning, so better than 2 and 3, and we'll update that as an.
No, I want you to think forward, in backward. What is that? 9 years almost. You're in the 2016 election. Everyone around you is telling you Clinton is going to beat the upstart Trump. Trump has never even entered any kind of race. At least Clinton. Think about Clinton think about it just from a agnostic kind of conversation. Clinton has won the Senate race, right? Well, how did she win the Senate race? Because JFK Jr. dies, right, in 99. So she wins the Senate race. She is Secretary of State under Obama. So she's got all of these ends, right? She's been a senator. She's obviously, she was obviously first lady. She's the senator. She's a Secretary of State. So she's got plenty of ends in the government. And he hasn't even tried any level of government to even a city council. So the systems don't even know how to look at him. And we'll talk a little bit more about the circumstance in a second.
Goes along as you guys, ABC News calls states. So far, obviously no game changer with Trump winning Kentucky or Clinton winning Vermont. The people I follow think the returns look good so far for Clinton in Florida, of course, which is a must-win state for Trump.
They're going to have one concession speech and one victory speech. But that said, I think it would come as a real shock to this campaign if she ended up delivering that concession speech.
Well, first of all, I'm smiling because you can sense the energy here at Javits Center in New York City. We have thousands of people pouring in for what we hope is going to be a celebration tonight of the first woman president of the United States.
Why are you so confident about the White House?
Because I'm confident in the American people.
If you look back, do you have any regrets that you didn't get into Michigan sooner in a bigger way?
I think Donald Trump's campaign might be regretting that they didn't compete harder. I would argue around the country by building a ground game like Hillary decided to, but also, competing harder in a state like Michigan.
All right, take a look at this. We project that Hillary Clinton will carry her home state of New York. That's 29 electoral votes. Hillary Clinton will win New York State. That's Donald Trump's home state as well. Hillary Clinton carries the Empire State. Donald Trump will carry a huge prize, Texas, with all of its 38 electoral votes. A big win for Donald Trump in the state of Texas.
Our Republican presidential candidate and his monstrosity and his lewd, vile.
You see how they allow the wording to load it. These are loaded lips. This is another terminology I love using all the time. Loaded lips to influence the people that are still at polls or considering going to polls. This is how ugly the media is. And this is one of the reasons why the media must be displaced fully until they can be unbiased forever.
It's become a national disgrace for Republican rallies in so many ways, and that's why you're seeing a sharp divide within the GOP party, and they've parted ways and they've distanced themselves from him.
I want to ask you about that, because we now know that former President George H.W. Bush voted for Hillary Clinton. George W. Bush said he left his ballot blank but did not vote for Donald Trump. Your two previous nominees, John McCain and Mitt Romney, both did not vote for Donald Trump. How much did that hurt you?
It doesn't help, and it's very personally disappointing, even though I respect all four of the people you just mentioned. And the irony for Donald Trump is he's been able to grow this party.
Nervous, obviously, before the polls closed. Tonight, they're very confident.
This was the one that for the last month, the Clinton folks said, if we win Florida, it's all over. Donald Trump absolutely needed it. He got it. And now, as we've talked about, he has many different ways to get to the 270 votes he needs to be the next president of the United States.
Wolf, the scene here is so different than it was a few hours ago when people were happy and relaxed. I have been looking around the room at people who are stone-faced. Some of them have been crying. We have seen people leaving the venue, including some who have been sitting on the risers behind the podium where Hillary Clinton is supposed to speak. There are people who are just in shock. I've seen mouths open as folks here in the audience are watching the results come in. Many of them with their arms crossed and a hand to their mouth. They are just stunned as they watch what is going on here.
When we first got here about 3 or 4 hours ago, this mood in the room was pretty lackluster. This room wasn't full at all. We were questioning, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Now it's totally full. The supporters behind me, as you can see, have broken out in chants of USA, USA, are booing the Clinton campaign when they show up on the monitors behind us. The bars are open.
At this point, if he wins Michigan,
It's done.
it's done. He's there.
Prior to that, he had been hemorrhaging in the polls, right? We had the Access Hollywood. We had all the female accusers come out. Prior to that, it was the Alicia Machado thing, and there was just all sorts of traps. So the debates didn't help him. The numbers were not on his side, but there was a shift a couple of weeks before this election night, and from the look of it, she never recovered.
Glass ceiling here was no accident. That was the metaphor that she was supposed to have shattered. And of course, absolutely none of it has happened, and they really can't quite believe it. They thought early in the night they could knock Trump out by winning Florida. That would make it impossible, but they failed to do that.
Nate Silver is joining us right now. And Nate, a pretty dramatic change in your forecast now.
Well, it's not about our forecast. It's about the fact that we haven't had any swing states called yet, and those are states that Clinton...
Look at his hair. His hair looks so mussed up more than he was before.
Was supposed to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Those states are all correlated, meaning that if you have problems with white working class voters, if you don't turn out African Americans, then you potentially lose those states or win by a razor-thin margin. I mean, she is in profound trouble right now in the Electoral College.
You're looking at the battleground states right now, the states in blue, Hillary Clinton, states in red, Donald Trump. And in the remaining states, Donald Trump has numeric leads in.
So again, that was just it goes on longer if you wanted to watch some of those, but those are hysterical when you watch this. Now, I remember my response. I mean, we voted for Trump with that too. And one of the things that we had felt like at the time is like, can you stop tweeting so much? I mean, because that was the narrative. That was the media narrative. And I even adopted that kind of media narrative too. And I was like, I wish he wouldn't, because he's inflaming people. And that is the silliness. I mean, he's used things like drunk Nancy and all these other statements. What he's doing is throwing the morons under the bus. That's the reality that messes with people so much. But people have realized, wait a second, they are morons. And when he's talked about drunk Nancy, she is drunk. And when you see the reality of Hillary was potentially arrested on 9/11, 2016. Was she still there, or did she have a military knowing what she did? Was she replaced? We don't know. I don't have a clue on that one exactly without that point. But here's actually a couple interesting points.
It was one of the most shocking U.S. election results in modern political history. But what was going on inside the Clinton machine as it fell apart? And what happened with Trump Tower as they won?
I thought, man, this has got to be written about.
So first off, the stunning news comes down. Clearly, Florida was not going to Hillary. It goes to Trump. Then little by little, she starts losing the Rust Belt states. When it became clear and she makes the phone call that you just saw right there that Donald Trump receives, how does Hillary react according to your sources?
According to my sources, a violent reaction. There were 3 sources at the Peninsula Hotel, and they said she just freaked out. Possible that she was angry. There was shattering glass. Then there was Ed Rendell on public TV saying, "I just left," and she's very angry. So we had people right there at the moment when it happened. It was North Carolina that was what disturbed the numbers from North Carolina.
Right. You knew things was wrong when they lost Florida. Meanwhile, here's the quote. The Secret Service agent present for hours at the hotel confirmed that there was smashing of glass and long periods of heated shouting inside the Clinton rooms. Brief glimpses inside the rooms confirmed that there were heated discussions underway, and Mrs. Clinton was upset. Remember, John Podesta?
Okay. So this is actually, here's a funnier kind of thing, because you want to see this kind of thing. Here's what Hillary was going to say with her acceptance speech that day.
And saying, look at me, listen to me. And as hard as it might be to imagine, your daughter will grow up and become the the President of the United States.
Instead, Clinton had to deliver this concession speech the day after she lost to Donald Trump in 2016.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election.
I mean, it's just hysterical. So you guys got to see it from that kind of light. So let's go back on a couple areas, and I want to show you some of the areas that we're seeing in what actually happens. So these are this is what happens in and this is why she was freaking out with that too. So let's bring up my screen over here, and it might not be perfect for you to see. I can't really make it super much bigger than that. In the 1996 or 1992 election, we have, so let's just go backward, 1980, Carter versus Reagan. I mean, you know, Carter gets wiped out, right? Carter has no ability to deal with Reagan. The second one is Mondale. Mondale barely keeps his own state, correct? Now, we move forward into 88, and you know, we have no ability for anyone to jump forward, even for you know, Bush, Poppy Bush. He still rips every state away from him, right? And now when we come to 92, we have a very split election, and that's why we had to have the Ross Perot conversation, right? When we come to 96, Clinton's not winning a lot of the electoral votes. He's getting barely a little bit more, but he's really not tipping as much as you think he is tipping with that too. When we come into 2000, Gore versus Bush. I mean, you know, Gore versus Bush. The key element was Florida, but really Gore didn't have enough of the main line of America. He just had the coastlines with that too. So that's their problem. Now, after 9/11, you know, no one's really going to be able to take him out in that particular way. We come to 2008, and we have, you know, Obama comes in and he wins it pretty easily. He loses a little bit more ground here. But this is the election that we look at here. Oops. Let's look at that a little closer with that too. Clinton gets 227 versus 304. And it was a very weird race. And when we say, how did they get the polling so wrong? It's because the internet capability that was available in many of these states by the Dominion machines was cut. They had no ability to fuss with this. So what happens? This is no election fraud, but it definitely had voter fraud issues. Now there still is media election tilting. Don't get me wrong with that one. Okay, there's a lot of election tilting, and there's still a lot of people who are not awakened at all. But there's voter fraud issues going on. But this was a very clean race overall, which is kind of startling for most people. Then we come in, and I'm going to do these ones, and I've decided I'm going to do a conversation on these two elections, the 2020 and the 2024. I'm going to do those for another day with that too. So what does Trump do when he gets into office? So one of the things I find fascinating is he's in office for not very long, and he's in October 1st of 2017, we have the Las Vegas shooting. Supposedly from Paddock is up in the 32nd floor shooting down. Again, the lone shooter, the lone nut who does his little thing, and you know, with tons of ammo, and yet it doesn't match anything, because we also see Black Hawk helicopters with lights off shooting from above. We see shooting from down below on the different areas, And we also know some interesting points that Prince Salome, who is the prince from Saudi Arabia, was taken out because they were actually trying to kill him. So Trump found out about this through the military contact and got him out of there. And it sets up the 2020 election fraud issues because we needed to show off the craziness of that. We will talk more about that. But it sets up a couple different executive orders that are probably the most prominent executive orders. And those executive orders actually take out the capabilities of the cabal. So 13818, blocking the properties of persons involved in serious human rights. And so when you say blocking the properties, it's a funky statement. I've talked about this many times if you've listened to me. And it says those who have severe human rights. Now, how do we get into human rights conversations? Well, we talk about this with the shipping containers. We've seen this over and over again with Evergreen and other types of shipping containers where they ugly ship humans, women and children in these shipping containers around the world. And obviously there are people who die in these shipping containers as they do this. And they're shipped into food processing plants where they're taking into underground areas and shipped all around America through underground railroads. We have this really disgusting kind of thing, and it's done as a systemic basis that government officials have been greased the wheels. Some of them act like they don't know anything about it, but they definitely did. But what it does, what this executive order does, is it says, if you're a part of this, we're going to block your property. And people go, well, blocking the property, what does that mean? What it means is we are going to bankrupt you. And this started in December of 2017. And most people don't realize his first part of the presidency was to walk around the world and say, listen, we have all the information. He says that there were 800 generals underneath him. America doesn't have 800 generals. That means the world's generals were underneath him in essence, or they were at least a part of this whole situation. It's not a global army. It is a rise to statement of saying to the cabal, you don't get to win anymore. So what we had to do is systemically and systematically take the cash away from them. And we've done that for a very long time frame until they had nothing left. Now, they've spent all of their resources in so many different ways. The second way that we did this is also to put an executive order 13848. And it's funny because idiot Biden, who re-signed these executive orders and re-kept them going all the way through his fraudulent presidency as well. And so he allowed this kind of thing to go. And Trump is talking about the election issues. And it says, if you're part of messing with elections in any way, shape, or form, you have a problem. And we are going to take you out. And it actually leaves a statement at the end of this one paragraph. I got to find the paragraph. I kind of skipped over the part of the paragraph. He says an interesting statement. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. Did you know that national emergency in 2018 has not been lifted? If you have a national emergency, guess what occurs? It allows the military to accomplish things in the states. And when we've had this issue of LA more recently, rising up, and they think that they can deal with ICE agents and military agents to take out the illegals, and they think that they can do something about it. I go, you don't get to do anything about this. And even there was a LA City Council that was asking I think it was the chief of police. She was saying, can you, as the chief of police, tell us when ICE might be showing up into our city so that we can be forewarned and get, and kind of get away from this. And he was like, no, you can ask the city attorney whether or not that can actually happen, but we can't do that because it's called obstruction of justice. And so when you understand the backdrop of this, we see this phase that they had no idea what was coming. It confused them. They had no answers to everything around them. And this is the backdrop of how ugly it was for them. And by the way, I thought this is going to be a 3-part series. We're going to do a 4th-part series. We're going to go into 2021. We're going to do into the 2020 election. We'll hit into the 2021 stuff and the fraudulent stuff all the way up to 2024. It is going to be some fun stuff here, guys. But listen, I'm giving you evidences. These are things that you can bank upon. Know that the stuff is going to get solved. Thanks so much.